The magnificent keep at Conisbrough Castle is one of South Yorkshire's most striking landmarks. The castle was the centre of a great Norman lordship given by William the Conqueror to William de Warenne. The keep was probably built in the 1170s or 1180s. Escaping damage in the Civil War, it became a picturesque ruin in the 18th and 19th centuries and inspired Sir Walter Scott's most famous novel Ivanhoe, published in 1819. Conisbrough comes from the Anglo-Saxon word Ningesbur, meaning the King's Borough. Little is known of the site before the Norman conquest, but Conisbrough town was certainly important long before then. A major Anglican church, now the Church of St. Peter, stood here, probably as early as the 8th century, and is the oldest standing building in South Yorkshire. Conisbrough may have been a royal estate and minster of the Anglican kings of Northumbria. Throughout the Anglo-Saxon and Viking periods, it seems to have been the most important place in South Yorkshire. In 1086, Domesday Book recorded that the estate included 28 townships stretching east to the Lincolnshire border and south to Harthill, and so covering most of the southeast corner of the West Riding. Before the Norman conquest, the estates were in the hands of King Harold. After the Norman conquest, the honour of Conisbrough was given to William de Warenne, who took his name from his ancestral estates in the valley of the Varenne in Normandy south of Dieppe. Warenne acquired land across 13 counties and was raised to the earldom of Surrey. The main Warenne estates were centred on Conisbrough in Yorkshire, Castleacre in Norfolk and Lewes in Sussex, the family's principal English seat. Their castle at Conisbrough probably comprised an earthwork enclosure or ringwork crowned with a timber palisade and with timber buildings within it. On the site of the present Inner Bailey, there was probably also an Outer Bailey. The Warrens gave the church at Conisbrough with all its properties and dependencies to the priory, which they founded at Lewes, and it is the priory that records that formed the principal documentary source for Conisbrough in the 11th and 12th centuries. William was succeeded in 1088 by his son William, 2nd Earl Warenne and Earl of Surrey. In 1121 this William was given the great manor of Wakefield in West Yorkshire and established a secondary seat at Sandal Castle. His son and successor, also William, was killed on crusade at Laodicea in Turkey in 1148. The third Earl had only one child, a daughter, Isabel. Her first marriage to King Stephen's youngest surviving son, William of Blouse, who became the fourth Earl, was childless. On William's death in 1159, Henry II married Isabel, the greatest heiress in England, to his half-brother Hamlin. Hamlin and Isabel visited Conisbrough regularly, probably annually, a pattern which may have been established by previous generations of the family. It was almost certainly Hamlin who built the stone keep at Conisbrough, which has been dated on stylistic grounds to 1170s or 1180s. In 1189, Hamlin and Isabel established a chaplain at the castle. The curtain wall and the buildings which lined it included the Great Hall, kitchen and a chamber block, are thought to have been built soon after the keep or possibly after Hamlin's death by his son William. 1201, Hamlin's nephew, later King John, stayed at Conisbrough, and throughout that century and the next, the castle remained one of the principal seats of the Warrens. The eighth and last Earl, John, married Joan of Bar, Edward I's granddaughter. The marriage was unhappy and childless, and in 1313 Joan, living apart from her husband at Conisbrough, went to London to live under Edward II's protection. Shortly afterwards, in 1317, Conisbrough became embroiled in Earl John's political rivalry with Thomas, Earl of Lancaster, who besieged and captured Conisbrough and seized John's Yorkshire estates. But in 1322, Thomas rebelled against Edward II and was defeated and executed. John's estates were returned to him in 1326. When Earl John died without heirs in 1347, however, the Warrens' northern estates, including Conisbrough, reverted again to the crown and were settled by Edward III on his fourth son, Edmund Langley, later Duke of York, who had been John de Warren's godson. Edmund Langley and his descendants, the House of York, played a major role in the turbulent history of England in the later 14th and 15th centuries. Langley's main seat was at Fotheringhay in Northamptonshire, but Conisbrough was his secondary residence. As such, it was more often used by the House of York than it had been by the de Warrens. Major alterations carried out to the domestic buildings in the castle sometime in the 14th century may have been carried out under Langley rather than under the last Warren Earl. On Langley's death in 1402, the estates and dukedom were inherited by his elder son Edward. To his younger son Richard of Conisbrough, Earl of Cambridge, Edmund left nothing, possibly because Richard's paternity was in doubt. Richard was born at Conisbrough Castle in 1385, and with no land of his own, he lived on there at his brother's tenant. It was at Conisbrough that Richard and a number of other Yorkshire notables conspired to assassinate Henry V at Southampton on the eve of Henry's departure for France in 1415. But the plot was discovered and Richard was executed. His brother Edward died at the Battle of Agincourt less than 3 months later, leaving Conisbrough to be occupied by Richard's widow Maud until her death in 1446. This was probably the only period when the castle was the main residence of a great magnate. Richard of Conisbrough's son, also Richard by his first wife Anne Mortimer, became the third Duke of York and inherited Conisbrough with many other estates. When royal authority broke down in 1450s under the incompetent regime of Henry VI, Richard became the leader of the Yorkist cause and claimant to the throne as the rivalry between Lancastrian and Yorkist factions culminated in open warfare. In 1460, he was declared a traitor and his estates were seized, but Conisbrough was garrisoned for him. Richard was subsequently defeated and killed at the Battle of Wakefield in December 1460. His head was stuck on a spike over Micklegate Bar in York, wearing a crown of paper and straw. But 3 months later, his 18-year-old son Edward defeated the Lancastrian army at the Battle of Towton and ascended the throne as Edward IV. Despite its royal status, the castle seems to have been abandoned sometime in the late 15th century. By 1538, when the castle of Conisbrough and Tickle was surveyed for Henry VIII, the keep had lost its roof and floors, and the gatehouse and greater part of the south curtain wall had collapsed into the ditch. When the antiquary John Leyland visited at about this time, he said he saw no notable thing but the castle standing on a rock of stone and ditched. The walls of it hath been strong and full of towers. In 1559 the castle was given to Elizabeth I to her cousin Henry Carey, Lord Hunsdon. It passed by the end of the 17th century to the Coke family, to the Dukes of Leeds in 1737, and in 1839 to the Conyers family and Earls of Yarborough. Landscaping work was carried out in the 18th and 19th centuries, probably by the owners of the castle, to enhance its picturesque qualities, and the castle certainly achieved some fame as a romantic ruin. It was depicted by numerous artists. While at Doncaster on his way north, Sir Walter Scott saw Conisbrough, which he thought to be an Anglo-Saxon ruin, and recreated it as Conisbrough Castle in his celebrated novel Ivanhoe. The castle was taken into state guardianship in 1950, and in the 1960s the Ministry of Works carried out extensive masonry repairs. The castle was also the scene of important evacuations in 1967-69 and 73-77, and new stairs were built to the keep. During the 1990s, the castle was managed by the Ivanhoe Trust, which re-roofed and floored the keep and built a stolidly modern exhibition building in the Outer Bailey. In 2007, the castle reverted to direct management by English Heritage.
The 15th of June, 1176 AD. Haute de Thiel, Chief Steward of Conisbrough Castle. This visit by Lord Hamlin and Lady Isabel keeps me busy from sun up until sundown, overseeing every task and duty in this castle. Is his lordship's bow freshly strung? Are the hunting hounds exercised? Is the great hall prepared for the feast? Lord Hamlin and Lady Isabel will be receiving our Lord the King Henry in 3 days. If everything is not perfect, then the master will not be happy, and neither shall I. A steward's work is never done, not while the castle is fully occupied. I must order the maids and direct the squires on daily tasks, drawing water in the basin, lighting fires in every room, carrying food and drink for Lord Hamlet's guests, the local barons. But when the Lord and Lady leave again, then I will lead this town feels like my own. I must think on that to get me through my tasks for the royal visit.
Hamlin, Lord of Conisbrough Castle, half-brother to King Henry II. Court cases, transfers of tenancies, nothing but nagging and bickering. Why must my time be wasted on quarrels over land, goods, and peasants? This job would be better carried out by my wife. But I must deal with his duties before my lord the King Henry arrives. By day we shall hunt deer. By night we will enjoy the company of my fellow barons and feast on fresh meat. But first, I must meet my tenants. They will see that, even though I am often away, I still hold power over my lands, and over them too. This castle acts as a constant reminder of that authority. It shames those common rule strongholds with their rectangular keeps. Back at home, in France, round or multicolored towers are the height of fashion. The King of France has one. The Counts of Champagne. My brother, the King, has built his own in Orford. Imagine his reaction when he sees this wall. It will add to the good impression I have already made, supporting the King's battles against his rebellious sons. Have I done enough to gain favor? The worthy guys will be charter, so that Conisbrough Town is permitted to hold a meeting market. That would raise my reputation and bring in money. First, I have all this business to deal with, and then we shall see.
Lady Isabel de Warren, Countess of Surrey. In just 3 days, my lord the king will arrive. As the lady of the castle, his visit places many demands on me. But until then, I plan to enjoy my own interests. Playing my stringed instrument here in my chamber. Flying my hunting ball from the riverbanks until we are both weary. Embroidering and talking about courtly matters with my ladies in waiting. We hear that my lord the king has not forgiven my lady the queen for backing her son's rebellion against him, so she remains locked up in the castle of Sarrow. That must be awful for her. I'm so grateful for my own powers and freedoms. And to keep those, we cannot displease my lord the king. He must be impressed on his visit. And so I will myself oversee the cleaning of the tapestries and furniture to make them look bright and colourful for the royal visit. I will ask Alice to